Louise, hello. Ah.
Talk, you're alive.
Now I'm live. Louise. I talked for 6 minutes. Hello, everybody. I talked for 6 minutes because I think Louise is probably having connection issues where she lives in her beautiful small village. So I started talking for 6 minutes and I found out I wasn't live. So I talked. Anyway, I believe I'm live now. I don't know where Louise is and I feel completely naked. I feel, oh, she's coming. Yes, Louise. Yay. We're a bit late, but Louise has shown up. So thank goodness I don't have to talk again on my own. It's amazing how much more intimidating it is to talk into a camera on your own than when you're actually talking to someone, even if it's a person on another computer that's remote. Anyway, Louise is coming and going, so I'm going to just carry on talking rather than neither of us talking. So hello, everybody. I cannot see your comments because Louise set up this live, so I don't know who's here, but I'm sure Louise will get on, and if she doesn't, we'll have a look at them tomorrow. So Louise wanted to talk about some of the big questions that came up in the summit, the Trauma to Triumph Summit. And they were all questions I certainly can resonate with in terms of my own healing journey and my journey of recovery. And those questions were about shame. They were about repeatedly having bad relationships. And for the life of me now, I can't remember the third one, but I will. That's interesting. Hey. So earlier on, when I thought I was talking to you all and I wasn't, I started talking about shame, because shame, I did a bit of research on shame today, and because shame was a biggie for me, but I didn't know it was until it came up. It was so suppressed for me that I didn't even know I had it. And when we operate with shame, well, shame, Brené Brown, by the way, defines, Brené Brown, are you here, Louise? Yay! I think she's here now. But shame, Brené Brown defines as just not feeling good about ourselves, not feeling good enough, feeling like we're not showing up in the world well enough. And she also says, I'm sure all of you know her work, that without shame, though, we cannot experience joy or creativity or love. And often shame cannot be accessed because it's so suppressed. And I did some research today, and they talked about something called toxic shame, actually. And that's the kind of very hectic shame that very often is suppressed, as in my case. I only realized it when I went into deep introspection with my cancer journey. And it just came up spontaneously one day in a visualization, a body visualization, actually. And I had a pain in my jaw, and I was focusing on that pain and asking what that pain had to teach me and what it needed to heal. And the next thing, the shame came up. So anybody who's watched my Trauma to Triumph clip will know that I spoke about that in that. And Louise asked me where my shame came from, and actually I couldn't answer at the time. And I've now realized quite a few sources of my shame. And I did all this research on shame today, and I'm going to do Facebook posts today and the rest of the week on shame. So unfortunately, our coach is not here, though, to coach us. I can only talk about my own experience of shame. What to do about it? Well, first we have to know that it's there, I think. So creating a life of self-awareness, very, very, big is the word I would probably, self-awareness. If you're self-aware, you will start showing up to feel what you're feeling and knowing what you're feeling, and sometimes you can't even know. And if you have an intention to heal on a very deep level, whatever is subconscious and suppressed will come up. Because up until it's seen, until it's up, it cannot be healed. So there are many things I did not know I had that were suppressed, shame being a big one, as well as bitterness and resentment, and there were quite a few others. But it all starts with creating an intention and a daily practice to be very self-aware. Oh, I think Louise might be here now. Let's hope. Third time lucky, fourth time lucky. If we start cultivating self-awareness, we will be able to, whether it's in a meditation or just in our daily lives, to start realize what's coming up for us. And one thing, I hope Louise does come on, because one thing I feel about shame is that it becomes disguised in other forms. It doesn't, or we can't always easily say, I'm feeling ashamed or I feel shame. And when I did some research today, I found an excellent article, which I'll post tomorrow, which said this toxic shame, which is the worst, most brutal form of shame, I think I had it, manifests itself as things like imposter syndrome, feeling that you're just not good enough, feeling that you can't show up in the world well enough. Oh, Louise is there. She's trying to get back in. In the meantime, I'm just going to wrap it on rather than just us not showing up at all. So you can hear us, Louise. Addictions is another way. So shame can be, suppressed shame certainly it seems can be, come in the form of other things. Addictions, very low self-esteem, depression. And I think that's certainly what happened with me. So Louise, if she doesn't get on, she won't be here to tell us how to deal with shame. And if she doesn't get on now, we'll do it next week. But I think just recognizing it and acknowledging it. And for me, the way I dealt with it, and I don't know if it was right or wrong, because Louise is not here to discuss it, but she will comment, I know, because she's listening, is I gave such radical self-love to that part of myself that felt so ashamed. It came for me in a visualization in the form of a tiny little girl or fetus or something that was all gray and pasty and hiding in a cave. And I tried to pull her out of the cave and just surround her with love, so much love from my adult self, and golden sparkles of love, and bring her into a circle, into a family that I'd created in this visualization, actually around a fire. And in that family were all the parts of myself, the adult self, and the different ages of myself, some healed and some not. And this was the most unhealed part of myself that had revealed. And I invited her to come out of the cave around this fire with the rest of me, including my adult self, which knew I could cope with anything, really. I wasn't a child anymore. And she very reluctantly and very scaredly came out eventually. And I just kept on loving her and telling her she was safe. So I'm sure Louise will have something to add to this, but I've also known since I've done the summit, which was only, I think 2 weeks ago we recorded it, that shame has been running my show for a long time. Actually, suppressed shame, and more of it revealed itself since I recorded that summit thing. And yeah, so I wish I could see your questions. Maybe Louise could post them, or your comments if there are any. Yeah, the other thing, Louise, one of the questions was about relationships. So I repeated bad relationships one after the other for 15 years. I mean, really bad relationships. And in the end, when I healed myself, those toxic relationships stopped. She's trying to get in, Louise. I don't know if she wants me to go on another link, I think. So I'm going to try on my phone. Let's see what happens. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, this might just work. I'm on my phone now. We are going by the seat of our pants, but we are doing it. That's the main thing. Okay, now I think. Louise, are you there? I'm on my phone and I'm on the computer, so I'm doing two things at once. No, the noise is unbearable, Louise. Okay, and you're not here, so I think I'm gonna leave. Oh, there you are. Are you coming? Oh, you're here. Oh, Louise is here. Hallelujah. Hello, Louise.
It was your phone.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know how to let you in. Oh, now you've gone again, Norman. No, that sucks. Okay, I'm just going to keep on talking till 7:30 if Louise will keep on popping in and out or not. So when I healed myself from the inside out, I no longer attracted or chose toxic relationships. Oh, are you there? Okay, I've done enough talking, so you're going to do the rest now.
I have no clue what you were talking about. You're going to have to ask me a question or something. I don't even know.
I talked most about shame because I said there were 3 questions you asked. I couldn't remember the second one, but I knew the relationship one and the shame. So I was talking about my own experience of shame and how it had actually ruled my life, I think. And I said how I dealt with it, but you would tell us how we can deal with shame when you came on and what effect it has on our lives.
Okay, so apparently I must do that. Okay, so let's first of all start with shame. Shame can be the most toxic shame is about a deeply seated shame about us feeling not good enough about ourselves. It has nothing to do with events outside of ourselves, except that it shaped the way in which we thought about ourselves. So that's the one kind of shame. It's not, I'm not acceptable as a human being. I can't let people into my life because they're going to find out how deeply unacceptable I believe I am. I'm trying to always keep the best front up, and just try and look as perfect as possible, but very deep inside, I do not believe. I always believe I'm going to be found out if I let people in too deeply. So that's the deepest level of toxic shame to walk around with. And it can be various things. It doesn't have to be one specific circumstance. And, like the circumstances that are obvious is like I carried my father's alcoholism as my shame. If you get sexually abused, you carry the perpetrator's shame as your own shame. Please tell me my cell phone is not flat. I am telling you now. Okay, I have to go sit on my knees on the charger now. This is, oh my word. Okay, I'm on my knees now, people. So
now you've got Louise's gone. Well, that's the kind of shame I experienced, and I didn't actually realize it till today. So, even though I'm very far down the road on my journey to recovery, I'm still discovering things and unlayering layers. And the deep roots, when they get pulled, can be quite uncomfortable, to say the least. But if one knows what's going on, it really is incredible. And if one has someone like Louise, which I've been lucky enough to work with her, so I've got some little bit of free guidance now and again, it really makes a very big difference. Are you back? Are you on your knees?
I'm sitting on my bum on the floor. Very comfortable, I promise you. The cat is trying to get. There's a cat. No, I'm just going with this. Okay. So, right. So, I feel like interrupting your story, but okay. So it's a deep-seated shame, which is whether it is something that you've taken on inside you, or whether it is an event that happened to you, or a lot of events that happened to you. But that kind of shame is not your shame. That kind of shame is somebody else's shame that you have decided to carry. So, say you're the parent who was always um, really harsh with you and or rejecting or whatever, then that was their shame really that they displaced onto you, and you internalized it and you made it part of who you are, except it isn't. Then there's the second kind of shame, and we have to differentiate between the two. The second kind of shame is when you messed up. So, you know, you've been addicted to something, you have committed a crime, so it's the messing up kind of shame. And that's a kind of shame that you actually need to forgive yourself. And that is the harder one, because it's the harder one to let go of, because you can see clearly that you were guilty and that you have to make your amends. That's why the AA have got 12 steps in which you learn all these things. So that by step 9, you can actually make amends, and you learn right through all of those steps up to step 9 how to let go of your shame, because you have done stuff and you need to make amends. But the second kind of shame is the obvious one, the one that's the hardest to get to let go. The other one, which is the one which we don't know about, we experience it in our life, and like how we don't show up, what we don't try for, how hard we are on ourselves, how hard we are on other people, how hard it is for us to trust people and let them in, how hard it is for us to show people who we really are. So that is how it shows up, but we don't actually know most of the time how deep the shame is that we walk around with. Very often we have forgotten or blocked out most of it. So that one is easy if you get some help. It's easy to work through it. Yes, you have got stages, but it messes our life up tremendously, because we don't understand how we limit ourselves because of a shame that we can't see or feel very often. Very often it's not available to us. We don't know the cause. We just know that we are hard on ourselves, but we don't understand it's because of shame. We know that we don't want to let people into our lives, but we don't understand it's about shame. And so both of them, shame is something that's really hard to let go of. It is for both of them. It's better to be in a support group or to have a professional on your side, and it doesn't take that long when you get good help. So so I think that's the most important thing to remember. And then I just want to say to anybody, if you are carrying shame, and one of the best ways to work with it is to ask, whose shame is it really? And so that is the shortcut that I can say to you tonight. If, like for me, my father was alcoholic, that wasn't my shame. I took it on me. I was small and I decided that I wasn't good enough because of that. If you have been sexually abused, it's not your shame. If you have been feeling bad about yourself for your entire life, it's not because of somebody else being harsh. It is not your shame. It's somebody else who took out this stuff on you and were harsh with you. So always find out, whose shame is it really? If it's not your shame, let it go. And if it is, if it really is something, then you have to learn to love yourself in spite. If you have messed up, you have to learn to love yourself in spite. And this is my cat behind me, carrying on like this, rearranging my furniture. She's not used to me on the floor. So you have to learn to forgive yourself like you would have had to forgive somebody else. And you have to have new words for yourself. You have to say, we know better, or we do better when we know better. And if you haven't had tools before, you're going to mess up. That is The most important thing to remember is that you're going to end up in situations like addiction why? Tonight's a disaster. Now my charger is making a noise in the passage. So you are going to learn to have to learn to forgive yourself like you would anybody else. And if you look at somebody else that you need to forgive and you want to forgive, then you go through the circumstances and you see what led up to it. And your circumstances are nearly always going to be, you know better, you do better when you know better. So you have to get tools first, and it's like it is always the lack of tools that makes us mess up to that degree. Okay, Antoinette, what else from you?
No, I mean, I basically, when telling my story about shame, you pretty much reiterated all of it, except I didn't talk about the solution really. So yeah, you hit it on the nail on the head, I think. And I realized only now in the last few weeks how it ruled my life, actually, shame. That was the core underlying thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, even after 3.5 years of internal work, but I'm good now, so yeah. But it has to be.
You know what's important is that, especially when we're small and stuff happens to us, if we are in an environment where we are supported, and it's really important, especially in the first 7 years, and even up to 11, 12. If we are in an environment where we are supported and we can go somewhere with our shame, then our parents will help us work through it. But if they are not there for us in other areas, they're not going to be there for us in our shame. So it really is a upbringing problem in the end that we, and it's important to know that when we look at our children, that we need to know that children mustn't be brought up according to who I am. They have to be brought up according to who they are and their experiences, what they are going through. So if that child is having a hard time, you have to be there for the child in the hard time. You can't negate it like it didn't happen. And you have to celebrate that child for who they are, because then they are going to trust you and come to you so that you can support them through their hard times. If you don't do that, that child's going to end up when they're 48, 68, and there's going to be a hole in their heart, and they are going to be unsure of what the cause is. And it's going to take a lot of work, like Antoinette said just now, 3.5 years of doing stuff and working very deep. And this week something pops up. And that is the nature of how it is. Once you start doing the work, it will pop out sooner or later because you learn about safety. Okay, do we have time? I don't know, I've struggled so much. We probably do have enough time for another.
It's 7:30. I don't know if there's any questions, Louise. I can't see that.
Okay, I can get to my questions. Okay, it's there on the laptop. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
So you can probably talk to the cat and I will get to the question. Let me see.
Oh, whatever. I'm not talking to Louise's cat. Oh, Louise has disappeared again now. All I can say, whoever's on the other side of this, is it's worth it. It might sound like a long time, 3.5 years, but it's worth it. I promise you. Don't stop.
No, it actually, once you get going, you understand, and you can get going very fast. Once you get going, you know what? It's just like push through, and because you get excited about the possibility. Okay, so you've done a half an hour. I've done 5 minutes.
Oh, so be it, eh?
Yeah. Look, our other questions that we had, they are good questions. And the second one ties in very much. So maybe we just say this: I'm unsure of myself, but it's deep inside, and people on the outside can't see it. And so we you know what? It very much ties into this whole thing, because there is going to be some inner shame, inner unreleased hurt, inner limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs is a very big thing that happens with us. So between shame and a lack of belief in there's okay. Now I have nothing. So, in between all of that, um, we are going to be scared of showing up because we won't have a belief in ourselves. So it's becoming very self-aware. We want people to become self-aware and just with a little bit of help, start noticing for our limiting beliefs, change them around a little bit. And that's a very big one. You change your limiting beliefs, you build your self-esteem, you get rid of your shame, and you get new tools, and you're a new person, and you're still the same person that you've been, but you are now not looking sure of yourself and looking okay, but you are really in charge of your own life. I don't believe it. Mia, I have shown up live. Mia, I can see you are here. You are not doing the rerun. Ha! There we are. Mia's here. Hi, welcome, Mia. There's a long question there. I can't read it. Too far away. Hi, Paul. Okay. You know, Paul, you should come in the studio and come and talk to us about shame. Antoinette, can you read it? I'm sitting on my knees, so I can't read there, please.
Paul said it's natural to want to confess to and ask for full and final forgiveness for the behavior that we see as shameful from our higher power. Once this is done and dusted, then the shame should be put aside. It's really only between yourself and your higher power. Everyone else is of minor importance.
Fantastic answer. Yeah, it's true. It's yours. It's yours to fix. And you decide where you want to make amends and if you want to make amends. I like what Paul said, because once you are done with your shame, then you want people to not hold against you anymore. Then you are done with it because you have done. And you're not. If you're done with it, you haven't just pushed it away. You've worked through it, because shame can never just be pushed away. You actually have to go for a very deep process of learning to accept yourself and love yourself all over again. So it's not an easy process where you can just say, oh, it was easy for that person, they just left their shame behind. Shame is a trigger, and for people who've experienced deep shame about stuff that they have done, it's a journey to work through it. And I think having a loving community, that's why I love groups. If you have a group, your group is going to carry you through the shame, because they are going to love you and accept you unconditionally, no matter what that story is that you have spilled. They're going to love you unconditionally, and they're going to support you, and they're going to love you at a time when you don't even love yourself. So I can't recommend anything better than becoming part of a group if you have to work through shame.
If others still hold shame against you, then they have an agenda, as in control? Question mark.
I don't think it's control. I think it is unfinished business. Usually it is, it's nearly a way of punishment. It's fairly close to control, but it's nearly a way of the people who are going to hold it against you are going to be people who have been affected by it, which means that they are walking around with big hurts and unresolved inside of themselves. And what it really is, they need to work through that themselves and find a way to express it and let go of it. And until they do, they're going to think that they need to hand it back to you. But shame is also, it's hard to, if you've been on the other side, it's also very hard to let go of it, because you have to learn from the other side. You have to learn that good people can mess up. You have to learn and find that huge openness of spirit inside of you to know that good people can mess up when they don't have tools. It's like, if I have to just put a basic life truth out there, which not enough of us know, is good people can mess up because they don't have tools. once you give him tools, what I say is you don't have that get out of jail free card anymore, because now you have the tools and the awareness. And now I want you to take responsibility and not go mess up again. But before that, you can forgive people a lot of stuff because of all the stuff that we carry with us and which makes us reactive and which makes us not have tools or resources to fill the hole that's inside of us. Okay, so I think that's more or less my story, unless anybody else have got a question there. Paul, do you agree on that? See if there's any more questions. Nothing else coming up there. Okay. Anything else from you, Antoinette?
Sorry, my mic was off because I've been told I'm too much. Maybe we leave it at that tonight, because there was a really good discussion about shame, I think, actually. And maybe, I don't know, up to you, Louise.
No, I'm happy with it because, if we only talk about shame, we want to keep it on 30 minutes. It's our new experiment. We want to see if people like or don't like it, and give a little bit of concentrated content. And this is for concentrated content for tonight. And if there's no more, oh wait, there's a question. There's somebody there.
Robin Rom, thank you. I'm so grateful.
Robin, you're going to have to elaborate because I probably have missed most of it. Take it off. Yeah, so, we will go until there's no more comments. And then
Isabella Luna, I like. Thank you, Isabella.
thank you, Isabella. Love that. Thank you. Okay. All right. So from next week, we'll see if you are around or not, Antoinette. So we've got a backup plan if you're not around. And so from next week, we are going to have some of our delightful speakers from the summit pitch up. So I know we're going to have, it's going to be a variety. We'll see who pitches up. So we'll have 2 or 3 speakers every time with us in the studio, and we'll have like a group discussion. I'll come up with a nice topic with one of the questions that one of you have asked us. So we're going to actually go on real questions because, the summit have brought up a lot of braveness in people because they've seen how everybody's been brave, right, Antoinette? And a lot of I've had people say, I've never shared this with anybody, and this one's bravery is now letting me share it for the first time ever. So I feel we can't just leave people like this. We have to be there for people who've got the vulnerabilities and help you through it so that you can know we're not just going to open it all up and then you're on your own. So we are here from next week on. The speakers will come. If you have any questions, you can private message me with the greatest pleasure. It's going to be anonymous, or you can put it in the thread. We'll check it out. Or you can email me.
Is Louise frozen? You frozen, Louise? Yes. Got to get Louise a new laptop, hey? Okay, guys, well, I think I'm going to say goodnight because Louise has disappeared again. Thank you for showing up and being here. And yeah, I look forward to chatting again. Good night. I'm going to exit now, I think. All right.